Horton, meteorologist, joining us now as we come up on 6:30 here. We've been watching, Liz, this latest advisory that we got at around 5 o'clock, and it's showing a slight shift, right?
Yes, that's right. A shift to the west. So, it's good and bad depending on how you look at it. It's still very, very powerful hurricane. So we're still looking at 155 mile per hour winds, a category 4 on that scale, and it's almost teetering on a category 5. And as Craig has been talking about, we are expecting some strengthening as we head on through at least the next 24 hours. You can see here Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, still a Cat 4 storm here on the northern coast of Cuba. Passes back up here, as you can see, very close to the Keys. And the National Hurricane Center track has this intensifying, re-intensifying to a category 5 storm as it makes landfall on or near the middle Keys, perhaps sort of near the lower Keys here, and then pushing off towards the western coast of Florida. We can't reiterate enough. You can't just look at this tiny red symbol and assume those are the only people that are going to be feeling the effects of the storm. It is a massive storm, much bigger than the entire Florida peninsula. And this track, we call this the cone of uncertainty because it really means that the center of the storm can pass anywhere inside this cone. So although the strongest winds are right there surrounding that eye wall, the core of the storm, will likely feel hurricane force winds across a lot of the Florida peninsula. It still has it going right up the spine towards central Florida, right in between Tampa and Orlando as you head into, this is probably going to be a Sunday evening into early Monday morning, finally exiting off North Florida here as we get into Monday into Tuesday. That's Monday afternoon here right on the Florida-Georgia line, and then eventually weakening. Keep in mind, for all those folks trying to get up to Georgia, more likely tropical storm strength here as it finally gets up to that line, and then eventually becoming a depression Tuesday afternoon. So really just impacting the entire state. We've talked so much about the implications of that, not only risk-wise, but also financially. As you can see here, the likelihood of hurricane force winds is going to be the highest, like we said, right around that eye wall, the center of the storm. And because the National Hurricane Center track takes it farther west, they're putting that area in red here, more on southwest Florida. But you can still see we're in that at least high to medium category here, especially as you get over the interior sections of South Florida and the poor Keys. Man, they are still in the highest risk. The only exception to that, the extreme upper Keys, where you have that medium chance. In terms of tropical storm force wind probabilities, well, very high likelihood that we'll all be feeling that. So remember, tropical storm force winds are 35 mile per hour to 74 mile per hour winds. Still pretty substantial on the top end of that. And that was very likely as we had not only the Keys, but Miami all the way up. So yes, we will likely still be feeling quite a bit from Irma. Let's take you through those model forecasts. We have a whole lot going on here, and I'm going to describe it for you. So here's the storm, and you see those spaghetti plots all converging together. Then once we get a little bit closer around that curve, that important curve we've been talking about for days, you start to see some saying, I think it's going to happen a little later. The large majority are right on that National Hurricane Center forecast line, right through the spine of Florida. And that's the reason for that. As you can see, the Euro model, that's the yellow you see, and the GFS model, the blue you see, they are almost right on top of each other. What that means to us is that there's very high confidence with this forecast that the likelihood of that center is probably going to be right where the National Hurricane Center has put it. And it continues to converge and to stay very consistent here as it heads off to the north. So those folks in the Carolinas that have been so concerned, those people that have evacuated to Charleston, Savannah, yeah, you could still see some of those effects, but as you get further to the northeast, you're starting to get out of that zone. And once it gets back up here into Tennessee, it's picked up by an area of low pressure and moves off to the northeast. But either way, hurricane warnings have been issued. Bahamas are feeling it right now. We've seen some pictures from there this evening. Boy, oh boy, they're feeling it hard. Cuba's still in that, and also Miami and the Keys. And these warnings are going to continue to ride up the Florida peninsula the closer we get to time. Of course, Tampa's underneath a hurricane watch currently.